All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to unpack the incredibly explosive and influential ideas of the philosopher René Girard. And we're going to use a really fascinating 1998 article by Olavo de Carvalho as our roadmap to understand a theory that tries to explain, well, nothing less than the secret origin of all human culture.
So let's start with a massive question. What's the glue that holds society together? What are the hidden, ancient foundations that gave us our laws, our religions, and our communities? Is there a single, secret answer to it all?
Well, according to René Girard, the answer is a resounding yes, and it's a pretty dark one. He argues that our entire civilization, everything we've built, is actually founded on the memory of an ancient crime, a murder that we spend all our time trying to hide, but are somehow forced to repeat over and over again.
Now, this is no small claim. Girard's project was unbelievably ambitious. He wasn't just trying to explain one little slice of human life. He was going for the whole shebang.
I mean, think about it. Most theories, they stay in their lane, right? They focus on economics or psychology or whatever. Girard came along and said, nope, I have a single key that can unlock everything, from ancient myths and religious rituals to our modern legal systems and even why we like the art we like. One master key.
And he was really throwing down the gauntlet here. He wasn't just adding another idea to the pile. He was directly challenging the intellectual giants of his day. He believed that huge concepts like Freud's Oedipus complex or Marx's class struggle, they were just symptoms of a much deeper, more primal force at work in humanity.
So where does a grand theory like this even begin? Well, it's not with something complicated or abstract. It all starts with a very simple, almost obvious observation about something we all feel every single day: desire.
At the absolute core of Girard's thought is this idea he called mimetic desire. Now, mimetic is just a fancy word for imitative. His big insight is that our desires aren't really our own. We aren't born wanting a specific house or a particular career. We learn to want things by watching and copying other people. When you see someone else wanting something, that very act of them wanting it is what makes it suddenly seem desirable to you.
And you can probably see where this is going. This dynamic immediately creates a huge problem. Because if I want something only because you want it, then we instantly become rivals. You're not just a person I'm competing with anymore. You are both the model for my desire and the main obstacle standing in my way.
For Girard, this isn't some occasional thing that happens at a Black Friday sale. This is the permanent default condition of human life. We're always caught in these triangles of rivalry. And this constant mimetic conflict is like a social powder keg, always threatening to explode and tear a community apart from the inside.
Okay, so that brings us to the next crucial part of the theory. If imitative desire means we're all in a state of constant conflict, how did early human groups survive at all? I mean, how do we stop ourselves from just completely wiping each other out?
This is the central puzzle that Girard tries to solve. If rivalry is our factory setting, how is any kind of social order even possible? The answer he finds is both brilliant and, frankly, horrifying.
Society's secret survival trick is what Girard named the scapegoat mechanism. When the tension of everyone against everyone hits a fever pitch, the community almost unconsciously stumbles upon a miraculous solution. It redirects all that internal hatred and violence onto one single person or group. All of a sudden, it's not me against you, it's all of us against them. And this whole process plays out in a predictable and pretty terrifying cycle. First, you have the crisis, where rivalries are boiling over. Then, the mob forms, and all that rage gets channeled onto one unlucky victim. That victim is sacrificed, killed, or exiled, and then an amazing thing happens: peace returns. To the mob, this feels like a miracle. So the victim, they reason, must have been both the terrible source of all the chaos and the divine source of the new peace. So what do? They turn the victim into a god, and they create rituals, symbolic reenactments of that first murder to keep the good times rolling.
And here is the really stunning conclusion. For Girard, this is the origin of everything. Religion? It starts as the worship of a sacrificed victim. The law? It's a set of rules designed to stop another mimetic crisis. Culture itself is the whole system of rituals and stories we build on top of that one hidden foundational crime.
For thousands of years, this powerful mechanism just ran in the dark. It shaped societies, it built cultures, and nobody really understood how it worked. But according to Girard's theory, something happened once in human history that blew the whole secret wide open, and change the game forever.
That game-changing event was the writing of the Gospels. Now, Girard was a literary scholar by trade, and when he read the story of the Passion, he saw something completely new, something that had never, ever appeared before in all of human mythology.
And here is the radical difference he spotted. Every single ancient myth, from Oedipus to Romulus and Remus, tells the story from the point of view of the persecutors, the mob. And they always justify the violence. They insist the victim was guilty, that they had it coming. But the Gospels do the complete opposite. For the very first time in history, the story is told from the perspective of the innocent victim, and the narrative flatly condemns the crowd. It exposes the scapegoat mechanism for what it is, a lie.
This quote, which the source article we're using really highlights, is seen by Girard as this direct, radical condemnation of the entire sacrificial system that the ancient world was built on. It's a total rejection of all the gods and all the rituals that were founded on the blood of innocent scapegoats.
See, once the secret is out, you can't put that genie back in the bottle. Once humanity has been shown that the scapegoat is innocent, the mechanism can't really be used with a clean conscience anymore. It loses its magic, its power to create peace. Because now we know it's just a mob lynching, not some kind of divine act.
So if the old, trusty mechanism is broken, what takes its place? Does that deep-seated impulse to find a scapegoat just vanish? According to the source article's interpretation of Girard, absolutely not. It just puts on a new outfit.
The argument presented in the article is that in our modern world, which is largely post-mythological and in many ways post-Christian, that fundamental need to find a scapegoat to unify the group doesn't just go away. Instead, it comes roaring back, this time dressed up in secular and often highly political ideologies.
So this 1998 article applies Girard's theory to a few modern phenomena. For instance, it argues that totalitarian movements simply swap out the ancient sacrificial victim for a modern one, like the bourgeoisie or Jews, to unify their followers through collective hatred. It then suggests that socialism kind of borrows the moral concern for victims from Christianity, but weaponizes that energy to hunt for new oppressors to purge. And finally, it characterizes what it calls political correctness as a sort of mimetic rivalry, where different groups compete for the title of most victimized, in order to justify their own desire for power and vengeance.
And that leaves us with one final kind of haunting question. Girard's theory is a really powerful lens for looking at the world, at history, and even at ourselves. But once you start looking through it, at political rallies, at social media mobs, even at drama in your own social circle, is it even possible to stop seeing the shadow of the scapegoat everywhere?